Still got to do something about the hair on these. Don't want it to be sort of too blondie yellow, but I don't want it to be too brown either, so if you happen to be sort of interested in sort of my technique and what I use, I'm not one of those artists that has hundreds of different colours and all that sort of thing. I just pretty much I use like primary yellow, primary red. And these are all Monty Mart products. I don't know if you can get them internationally, but this is what I get in Australia. So primary blue. These days I'm also using a bit of green. Didn't used to use green at all, but what the heck, it comes in the same box as the rest of them, so I started using it. And white, and of course black. That's pretty much all the colours I use, and everything else I mix. I'm not a paint collector by any means. Mixing all your colours keeps your costs down, so that's pretty much why I do that. It's also the reason why I've stopped using chalk pastels, is because the chalk pastels that I like are actually very expensive, and the cheap ones are just too chalky, and I don't like them at all, so I wasn't really sort of interested in going out and buying another expensive box of pastels, even though that would be nice, but they cost, the kind that I like for a set cost $50 or more, and I have to really go out of my way to get to an art shop that sells them, so, and it's just not sort of economically viable to just replace some colours simply because of how far I have to travel just to get replacement colours. So that was one reason that prompted me to go straight into just using acrylics on their own, because I can buy these things locally anytime I need them. So there we go. That's pretty much the hair done. You probably notice that, or a lot of people tell me that I have a very unique sort of style with my artwork, and a lot of artists say they're still trying to find their style, and I think the way you kind of find your own style is to perhaps start to draw and paint things that either aren't particularly from life, and start to get into drawing things from your imagination, because that way you start to draw things from the point of view of the way you perceive them a lot more than drawing things using a specific process of capturing things from life. I think that's very much how my style developed. I can do still lifes and draw stuff from the real world and do a pretty good job of it too, but and sometimes I wish that that is what I actually could get into doing, because people who paint things like landscapes and still lives and portraits pretty much have an endless supply of influences coming in at them without them having to do a lot of work. They just have to see something and be inspired by it and want to paint that particular object, subject, or whatever it is that they're being inspired by. So, but that's just not for me. That's not really what I do. I don't find painting from life to be anything more than just an exercise in reproducing what you see, which is not true. In fact, like painting from life, you actually, the really good painters that paint things from life bring a bit of themselves and the way they actually see things in the world to their paintings too. And in fact, it's probably a myth in the sense that realistic painters paint how things are as you see them, and if you compare the same scenes as a photograph as to the way they've interpreted it when they paint it, you'll see that the two things are often very different. So even people who paint from life add a bit of their own personality and style to what they do. But if you really want to get into finding your own style, then creating stuff from your imagination will really progress that, because drawing something, trying to get it out of your head and onto a canvas, when you've got no other references really other than you and what you're trying to interpret in your brain, will really sort of bring out the way you see things. And I don't paint realistically for that reason as well, because I like the sort of texture and seeing the brush marks, and I like a painting to look like a painting rather than a photograph, so that's why I paint the way I do. And plus, painting in this sort of loose style is actually much easier. I don't have to stay in the lines, and it just makes the overall image that much more interesting. So there we go. So this video at the moment, without any edits, is just hitting 40 minutes, so I might stop it there and take a break and come back in a little while.